everyone, welcome back to Bible in a Year. Today we're reading through Jeremiah chapter 19 and 20 and Daniel chapter 1. But we're going to be focusing in on the Jeremiah chapters today. In chapter 19, Jeremiah goes out and he buys a clay jar and he presents it to the elders and he smashes it on the ground. And he uses this as vivid imagery to prophesy to them that Jerusalem would be torn apart and shattered like that clay pot for all of the evil that is happening in their land, for their idol worship, for their false gods, for the child sacrifice that was happening. God even said at one point in the scriptures, it didn't even come to my mind to make laws for these things. He was like, these things are so unspeakable, I didn't think I'd have to tell you not to do them. And I wonder sometimes if we're at a point in our timeline that maybe God feels the same way about some of the evil that's happening in our world right now. Evil doesn't just go unnoticed. God is a good God. God is a God of justice. He is a just and loving God. And his heart breaks when things like this happen, when lives are not being respected, when people are turning away from God and turning to evil practices and false gods and idolatry, which may look different than it did back then. We may not be worshiping a sun god, but do we worship our cell phones? And God's heart breaks for the separation of people from him. So I wonder if he would say the same thing for us today as a nation, as a world. So that's just something to think about. So he says, I didn't think that I would have to, make rules against all this evil because it's just something that you should know better not to do. So he says that they will be called the valley of slaughter for all of the evil things that are happening in their land. And then in Jeremiah 20, because Jeremiah spoke out and prophesied all these things, this inescapable prophecy, he was put into chains by the leader Pashur. And even so, Jeremiah, you would think in chains would shrink back, but in that bondage, he actually becomes more bold and prophesies further against Pashur and tells him that he will be renamed to terror on every side, that there will be no way for him to escape the terrors that are coming against him because of all of the evil that is happening under his rule. So Jeremiah has this moment, even in his boldness, even in his standing up for his God, where he is in those chains and he is speaking out left and right what God is saying to these people. But he has this moment where he feels this heavy burden. He feels overwhelmed. And he starts saying things like, I curse the day that I was born and I wish I was never born. And it almost feels like that hopelessness that we felt when Job was going through his trials. I curse the day I was born. I wish I was never put here, And all of my friends and all the people around me, they all think I'm crazy because I'm standing firm on you, God, but I don't know what you put me in this life for. That's where Jeremiah is at this point. And it almost echoes the words of Job when he was in that state of despair. And I feel like us too, this Christian walk can become weary. It can become tiring. We can experience burnout in our ministries to the point where we're like, man, God, is all of this even worth it? But I assure you that it is worth it. Because if you continue to read these scriptures in Jeremiah chapter 20, you see that he stands firm again on his God and he turns it around and he has that glimmer of hope because he knows that God is a good God and that it's always worth it to do what is within the will of God for our lives. Like Job, there's always a redemption. There's always a restoration. There is always good for those who love the Lord and who are called according to his purposes and who do what is right in the Lord's eyes. So I encourage you today that you may be in a ministry, you may be in a season of burnout, you may be in some kind of bondage, or you may just be facing persecution. But now is not the time to shrink back, my friends. Now is the time to be bold and to stand on God's word, God's promises, and God's strength. I hope this encouraged you today, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Bible in a Year.